Olga Borisova is the Minister of Culture of the Russian Federation. She graduated from the Theatre Journalism Department of GITIS with a degree in the theatre study. She had been working on television for many years. In 2018, she took over as head of the Department of Cinematography, and in 2020, she became the Russian Minister of Culture. Olga Borzona. In the summer of 2024, the UAE Culture Days and Vietnamese Culture Days were held in Russia. Tell us what were the most important tasks in organizing them and what feedback did you get from the participants of foreigner delegation and the Russians. First of all, indeed the objectives of the Days of Culture have been unchanged in this sense for many years, and this tradition has been active for over half a century. In the Soviet Union, the most difficult year, even the perestroika years in Russia, it was a common thing to bring other cultures and demonstrate in another countries. And of course, it has been especially popular in recent years, but we have always warmly welcomed our counterparts from countries where diplomatic relation has been established. You know how many fans there are in our country when it comes to the BRICS countries and Chinese culture and African culture and Latin American culture, of course, again historically. It is not same recent trend. It is very nice because these kinds of events attract people of all ages and cultural fans. If you are talking, for example, about Vietnam, this year's event at Zarait Park was absolutely wonderful, and our counterparts tried their best and took a very informal approach to it because representative of contemporary musical culture were happy to perform and national classic major iconic pieces were performed. There is also a big photo exhibition, and at the same time Vietnamese film days took place at the Illusion Cinema. It is a special attractive space where people interested in the national cinema of different countries come to study, learn, and understand the specific, the peculiarities, the aesthetics, the language, and the traditions. There are so many people like that, and it is clear that along with a large number of such guests, if we are talking about the UAE culture, days that were held in Moscow. And it is clear that along with a large number of such guests, if you are talking about the UAE cultural days that were held in Moscow, almost on the Red Square itself, there was a high level of presence of my counterparts who came over, and you can tell that this is a very seriously controlled at the state level. What kind of marquees have been unfurled with the incredible number of events that take place. Almost every day in our capital, Moscow has seen all the sorts of things, but there are big marquees in front of the State Historical Museum where some representatives of creative industries were demonstrating the feature of various kind of national crafts on carpet along with musician artists and handcrafts. They were all represented. We are preparing the return weeks and days to come to both Vietnam and the UAE, and that I found very important. We just met with my counterpart and the UAE Minister of Culture at the St. Petersburg's Cultural Forum as part of our BRICS activities. One of the first things he mentioned was how important this Moscow event was to them, and he also wanted some feedback. The presence of the Ministry of Culture at the event was very important to him so that many people of all ages would come, get to know each other, discover the beauty of this country. So I think we cannot appreciate enough the contribution to this kind of event and relations between countries in general. It is numerous. Let's talk now about China. 2024-2025 are the cross-cultural years of Russia and China. Are there any results that we can tell about and what activities are planned? I think the most important thing is that these events have been very much anticipated on both sides. I think it is very important for the audience, for the ministries of culture of the two countries and the representatives of the cultural community, because there has not been, and here is so cultural area where we do not closely communicate with China and which is not included in the plan. I can honestly and even certainly tell you that we will see how many events have taken place only at the end of the second year. We started with 60 and now we have had over 200, and there are more and more of them now. And it is very important to us that is not just two ministries of culture. That is not just two ministries of culture that come up with some exhibitions by order. In the most positive way possible, it is a spontaneous culture big march of our Chinese counterparts and who are also traveling to St. Petersburg and to Nizhny Novgorod, Kazan and Moscow to get acquainted with the biggest theater, with the orchestras. They check with us, coordinate with us, invite certain productions on their own. Building up separate relationships with the different provinces with the dance group, we just have crowd of fans are admired for Chinese cinema and Chinese film days. You know that China is the biggest cinema market now, finance wise it is the wealthiest richest market if we will, and diverse film industry is represented in China. From inside movies to super blockbuster and animation and so on, Russia has demand for everything. We have our own fan base and experts who know the deal, and we can reverse the story. Since Soviet time at the highest level, the leader of our countries have emphasized this love for Russian and Soviet movies. We have a lot of children studying both Chinese cinema and painting, and there are joint activities there, and music, of course. I mean, the student works separately. We have already had two big crossover projects. Our Tretiako Gallery had just opened its exhibition in China. Before that, I was at a marvelous exhibition of a wonderful Chinese painter who studies in the Soviet Union and he is still living. What a marvelous exhibition he had. And the amazing attention to this exhibition is also very important. I am just afraid to even forget someone. I can only technically stop telling of cultural relation between Russia and China, because while you and I were sitting here, our counterparts from the cultural area have definitely agreed on something else. In one of your interviews, you expressed an interesting idea that Russian TV shows and their level has enhanced the quality of full-length movies. What do you think? Is there that influence? Does it extend to the film industry of other countries, particularly the BRICS, since we have already talked about the Chinese cinema? Yes, it is a paradox because at some point we got used to movies with a level of TV show, and now it sounds weird. If you go back in time, previously we would say this artist is only for TV shows. Remember that? Can you say that now? The artist is starting in our TV show, which are now watched by the whole country, and we are used to it being a television format only, and everybody was saying no platform is going to survive, there is going to be one left, and weirdly I do not see them suffering there because the budgets allocated to manufacturing are also increasing. We are witnessing the growing amount of high quality movies that are widely discussed. I can also tell you that when we came to Brazil with the Russian season this year, and if we talk about the BRICS countries and Rio de Janeiro, you could not believe how pleased they were when I told them what a hit Latin American TV shows were in post Soviet Russia. The era of Soviet Union collapse the 90s and everyone was watching. My friend's grandmother used to say, I won't die until I know what happened to Russia. My friend's grandmother used to say, I won't die until I know what happened to Izora the slave girl. And she would take her blood pressure and sit there worried if only she was going to be okay, and somehow we would forget about all our troubles. We just wished miracle. You cannot even imagine. You are smiling now, and I am telling you how the Brazilian's Ministry of Culture smiles when I mentioned that our villages were all jokingly called fazendas. Of course, it is an impetus to do something together because such a response was not just an accident. It is there are some common values at the point. The producer should say this, right? It elicits some kind of response, so it is about aesthetics. Like with the Indian films of that sentimental, social, acutely social nature, something we feel the demand for historical pieces of work, and that is a sign of co-production. We will work. I hope everything will work out with the Thailand. One TV show is finished now in Argentina and it is coming out very soon. These are the first trial step. Of course, we need to work more with India. We are loved at Indian Films Festival. We are always welcome. Our animation is traditionally loved. It is all our soft power. It is beneficial in the long run. The fact that the kids get together and discuss the same cartoon is very important. The fact that they study together, they do creative work together, they meet together in schools, film schools, they come to study with us. That is generally love forever. Is it necessary to create an online platform where popular TV shows and film from the BRICS and BRIC Plus countries would be shown? First of all, yes. Secondly, it is not hard to do. Thirdly, it is not just audiovisual content. We could show all the broadcasts. We have just had a great start to the Bolshoi theater season right now. With the ballet Sleeping Beauty, we did a big premiere with an online broadcast. Unbelievably beautiful shot shown in 100 cinemas in Russia. We started in Kaliningrad and ended in Novosibirsk because at 9 p.m. people were going to the cinema to see the premiere in the Bolshoi theater. 6 big screens in Moscow on City Day, and people were all standing there watching, cheering, and premiere in Dubai. They say we want more session in the cinema. Give us more broadcast. That is the platform with broadcasting our concert and our unique venues. Let's talk about the Russian season in Brazil. Would you like to elaborate on how the Brazilian public receives our artists? What is the difference between the Russian season in Brazil and the Russian season in another country? Maybe it is all about sensation and human perception. Well, on the other hand, there is a queue for our people who want to perform. They want to perform because they have not met the audience yet. We are very happy that our Russian season are just simply cream de la cream. As the French say, the best thing ever. Nikolai Maximov's thesis carried together with the Vaganova Academy. For many years, there has been a branch of our choreographic school, a kind of satellite of the Bolshoi theater in Latin America. The kids are learning choreography, and there is an opportunity to meet and get in touch with outstanding legendary soloists from the Bolshoi theater. Because we are not just going with the concert, we are giving a master class afterwards. Ildar Abdrasko had 2 or 3 master classes. And we did not just have some guys who already promoted and famous, but all kind of demographics. There were even guys from the fables, and he was telling them about the specificity of working with the voice. It was simply the magic. It was heartbreaking to see him comforting a guy who was just crying that we were leaving. I may never get a chance to see you again in my life. It is very important. It is also traditional for our country, and it is very important to continue it. And we are seeing this warm response, and I went to the National Museum in Rio de Janeiro, which is having a very hard time. There is a real tragedy there because the palace burned down. It is being resorted and it is not going to open until 2026. The entire collection in that palace was destroyed, and immediately, as usual, since the Tragic Russia era or Soviet times, you have to help. And the State Historical Museum are treasure trove are treasury inside Moscow's Red Square, which are located here. Alexei Konstantinovich Levkin suggested doing the project together, coming up with this something, and we will help for sure. Let's organize something together. It seems to me it is very important that the Russian Minister of Culture comes to see the director of the museum, and we are discuss everything. Of course, I remember about it on a personal level, and I will never forget the director. We will take him to the St. Petersburg Cultural Forum and we will think of something else together. This work at the museum level with the countries of SCO and the CIS is incredibly important and valuable. Have you come to anything particular in your conversation with the director of the Brazilian National Museum? Yes, the State Historical Museum will have a common project with the National Museum and Rio de Janeiro. So they will just have to come up with it themselves. The official here should not point or advise, but they should help administratively and financially, of course, which is obvious. It's important. So let these two prominent directors of prominent museum spaces work for something out. Are the Russian seasons planned to be held in any other BRICS and BRICS Plus countries in the coming years? We can only say about next year. It has already been announced this time we are going to place where Russian season have never been. I mean the Middle East. And we will be in both Bahrain and Oman, another two incredibly interesting countries. When it comes to Oman, we are preparing a very serious intermuseum cooperation program. Oman has already been a guest. We have already had very colorful exhibition in the Moscow Kremlin, and the Hermitage Tretyakov Gallery will come to the main museum of Oman for sure. The Moscow Kremlin will come to Oman for sure. In Bahrain is a little bit more difficult with the museum cooperation, but we'll think of something. But you know when what is very important now in Brazil, and what we will bring these programs for children such as the puppet theater, and we have a Brazzo puppet theater in brilliant shape right now. The counterpart are coming with all sort of production both for children aged from 0 to the pieces of work by contemporary director and puppet artists which are very adult, uniquely designed, challenging and poignant. They always come with master classes because this area is also historically very developed in Latin America and the Middle East. So we are also tailoring it to each country both aesthetically and in terms of etiquette. For example, if you are discussing ballet, we need to understand which ballet to go to. Bahrain, where the first ballet is a rare sight in the Persian Gulf countries, and you have to be sensitive and respectful of the traditions of the country you are coming to, so that it would be real celebration. I was just wondering what nuances should be taken into account when organizing such large scale event in another country, even like the Russian season, which introduced traditional national culture. Well, first of all, we work it out with ambassadors all the time, along with the Ministry of Culture. And I do not want to offend our counterparts. We just say that respect for the tradition, for the spiritual and more values of our partners who are waiting for our arrival is a celebration. It is a huge event at the moment. We need to understand in terms of symbolism. You know that any eastern country has nuances in terms of color, in terms of symbols. For example, in Russia, it is the year of Chinese culture. We worked it out with the Chinese embassy first, simply to avoid any misunderstandings because of the minds of regular people. I remember one of the opinions considered was a fan as a frontlet, a fan as a bridge. We started talking to experts who study Chinese, and they were like, no, the Chinese fans has a completely different shape, and it is not the important symbol for China. These are all the things they give a very true tone and setting in the dialogue when you do not give something out of the blue, but when it is in care and love and understanding and respect for the specifics of the place you are going to. In your opinion, what not fully developed areas could be promising in cooperation with the BRICS countries? Everybody likes the area of education very much. Everybody wants to go to study. For example, the Russian Gulf countries are just planning to have their state orchestras, and all of them are asking for help. Everyone always asks for help with choreography, contemporary choreography, choreographers, directing choreographers, and they want to learn and come and produce some big joint project. You always need musicians, they are always in demand, and they always want to come to Perm or Vladivostok to learn from us. Separate spaces are being built there, including educational spaces so that Russian students can study there as well. And kids from the Asia who are just 1.5 hours of flight away from Beijing, if you study choreography in Vladivostok in 1.5 hours, your parents can come over, visit you for a weekend, and hang out with you. The kids live in a boarding houses there. We have had a tradition for 250 years, by the way. And of course, in that sense, education is a topic that is always discussed. And we have to say that it is very important to us that no matter what, even in the most difficult economic years, Russia preserved this unique three-stage system of music education. When the first step is the children's art school, then you have the thing we call the technical school or college, and we have the conservatory and the higher educational institute. That is why kids who go to conservatory are so prepared. You would be surprised, but libraries are interesting to them because such unique folios are kept in our countries and they have to be restored as well. Money has to be allocated to preserve these unique treasures that library hold. And what is a modern library? When you initiate the dialogue, eyes light up because everybody's question is, why do you need a library? When we have phones, we once had a national culture project that started this project. We have already got the first 1,000 new model libraries and even more. When we are inviting everybody, it is such an attractive power place. In our case, it is a completely free space where people come, where the youngest child is brought to learn to love books, and where our grandparents come to discuss a novel they have read, to criticize someone. Everybody has a different attitude towards Anna Karenina. It changes with age or calling some prominent artist in the anniversary year of Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin to cite poetry together and or maybe pay tribute to a singing his romances and so on. It is a traditional venue share and tell that 10% of the world libraries and Russian if you imagine number 42,000. That is how many libraries we have in Russian Federation. This experience is unique. Being contemporary spaces, children's libraries continue to work with the children and introduce them to the world of books and continues to learn how to read because we technically believe we can read when we know all the letters and together they make up words. So we could read the prescription on the medicine but it is wrong. And when you have the conversation with your counterpart, their eyes light up because it is a worldwide problem. A child unable to read is a higher education problem. It is a problem for all creative industries because without development of imagination, which is important in the case of reading, and reading gives immense boost to that. These are topics that our counterparts care about as much as we do. Olga Barzona, thank you very much for an interesting conversation. Thanks to you.